And
Erie. Happy Overreaction Monday, everyone. Welcome into Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Paul Adamczak here, filling in for Nick Artman today, but I'm not alone. In studio this week, I'm very pleased to have the great Isaac Petcash with us this morning. Isaac, how was your weekend after an unexpected Overreaction Friday?
A great weekend, Paul. We actually got the Christmas decorations up this weekend.
Love that.
We're at the Cavs last night. It's my wife's birthday today. Happy birthday,
Love that
Allie.
even more, and happy birthday to her.
Yep, greatest woman in the world. She got a chance to see the team that I described last night won by double digits, and yet didn't seem like they played well, which is actually kind of crazy to see. That was a lot of fun, and just, man, Thanksgiving's here already. So we're doing a lot of cooking. The house smells like garlic, and that's a good thing, man.
Garlic and pine needles. I love it. I love it.
Exactly.
And as always, we're joined by our award-winning producer, the great and powerful Rich Smith. How are you, my friend? How was your weekend?
phenomenal cosmic power, itty-bitty living space. Not too bad. Got to crown another Eagle Scout in my troop yesterday.
Hey,
so
congratulations
nice.
to them, and congratulations to you. That's fantastic.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the show. Don't forget, you can listen anytime, anywhere on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, be sure to give us a follow or shout out on Twitter at FC Sports Talk, or complain about us to the boss at I'm Dr. Artman. Later
Slackery ain't here today.
Or you can complain on the Gem City Sports Podcast Network to me, Isaac Petcash.
Perfect.
You've got multiple routes to do it.
I was going to say, bring all your complaints. Later this morning, we'll be joined by Gannon Womens Basketball Coach Cleve Wright. As I mentioned, it is an Overreaction Monday, so we have that to look forward to as well. We'll have the 2-minute drill and some local college news. But first, we have to talk about the last of the remaining District 10 state playoff football teams from over the weekend in the North Shore Rewind. Rich, run it back.
There we go.
All right, Isaac, I didn't want to spend the whole show on this, but
Sure.
I couldn't at least acknowledge the effort from what were the best two football teams in District 10 this season, the Hickory Hornets in AAA and the Wilmington Greyhounds in Single A. And if you don't mind, I want to start with Hickory.
Yeah.
Their postseason run ended Saturday with a 30-7 loss to undefeated Penn Cambria, now 14-0. Hickory finished the season at 11-2. They saw their 8-game win streak snapped. Senior quarterback Xavier Telez threw for 94 yards on 7 of 18 attempts. Trevor Borowitz was his top target of the game. He picked up 53 of those receiving yards. On the ground, it was Kelvin Morrison who rushed for 95 yards and a touchdown. For Penn Cambria, though, it was running back Gavin Harold he was a usual excellent self, rushing for 102 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also picked up 60 receiving yards. They'll get 8-3 Avonworth out of Pittsburgh. Avonworth, always a very good school. Isaac, Coach Bill Dungy from Hickory told his players after the game he was proud of their effort, that they didn't play their best game, but they had a target on their backs all year, and that they went out and defended their District 10 crown.
And look, here's the thing, is that next year they're going to come back and they're going to be strong too, right? I mean, you lose players every single year. You're going to have to replace your quarterback in Telez, but the two guys you mentioned, Morrison, a sophomore, he comes back, Trevor Borowitz, a junior, so you have one of your top tight end targets back next year as well. I think, and we talked about this before the show, when you're in 3A and you're now back-to-back District 10 champions, that says a lot about you.
Correct.
We all agree that 3A, I think at least in this panel, is the strongest class as a whole out of any class in all of District 10. You look at Hickory and what Coach Dungy's been able to do. The consistency for me is the big part.
Agreed.
You have to go up against Sharon 2 straight years in a row, who arguably had a better roster than you did. You lose to them in the regular season this year. You beat them again to the playoffs. The tough thing for Hickory is you were facing down the barrel of a gun with an undefeated team. And so I think when you get into the state playoffs, things can be a little bit different. But at the end of the day, you look at this Hornet team. They have a good amount of players coming back. And you know Coach Dungy, as long as he's there, he's going to have his team ready to go. They're fast. They're high-flying. They score a lot of points. They're going to be right back there next year.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Sharon, another team that's going to be back there next year, and Hickory's going to lose their quarterback. My preseason player of the year was quarterback Xander Telez. Had a wonderful season, as we expected him to. A rough game on Saturday, a game that had to be delayed due to some weather issues in that part of Pennsylvania, able to go down. Coach Dungy talked about after the game, he hoped that the seniors will leave the program as better men than they were when they got there, and I think that's what it's all about.
I agree. And again, it's like we said, it's culture, right? I mean, we talked about on Thursday's show when we gave out our awards is that how many great coaches there are now in District 10.
Yes.
And it's a mix of veteran coaches and young coaches who are bringing in different perspectives. And I think one of the things that's so consistent with Mercer County football is that the coaching is always great. And I think Dungy is one of one where that is concerned. There are a lot of them, but he is somebody that in the last few years has been so consistent with his team. Even not last year, but the year before that, when they came in as one of the lower seeds in 3A, I believe it was General McLean they played as the 7th seed, and they won that first game. So no matter what happens with Hickory, they're always going to be there at the end. They're always going to be consistent, and it's always going to be difficult for you to beat them because they have so many different ways they can beat you. And a great season for the Hornets. Again, a great season for 3A as a whole. And like we said, they're going to be back. There's no question about it. It's not like this is a one-and-done sort of a team. They're going to have a lot of success again next year, even without Tellez coming back.
I agree with that. So Hickory ends the season at 11-2, the farthest reaching team in AAA. Let's drop down to Single A. Friday football game. Wilmington's football season ended in the PIAA Class 1A quarterfinals with a 38-20 loss to another unbeaten Port Allegheny, who's 13-0 now. The Greyhounds trailed 16-14 at the half, and got the ball to start the third quarter, but that's when the Gators took control. They had a 22-point third quarter, including an 18-yard pick six to start the second half by Gavin Moses. 295 rushing yards from Aiden Bliss, who also scored twice. For Wilmington, Chase Michaeltree, he tallied 187 rushing yards, including a 56-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. And Wesley Vass-Gal, the quarterback, connected with Freddie Zentner on a 54-yard score in the first half. The Greyhounds finished the season at 8-3. Close game. I think a lot of that third quarter was what really did them in. I wanted to take a second to talk about Aiden Bliss. 35 carries, 295 yards, and we said the 2 touchdowns. This dude ranks 7th nationally in rushing yards this season, 2,880, and 2nd nationally in points with 346. Only a junior. This is one of the studs in the state of Pennsylvania and the United States of America.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to the guys over at Your Daily Local Sports Network who cover a lot of teams in this district, in this area, and they've been covering Port Allegheny all season. They laughed and they said, you know what? He's the 2nd best running back we've seen in the area because Brady Collins plays for Clearfield, but this guy's still a stud. Okay. Let me say this right now. 38-20, given how good that Port Allegheny has been all season long and how dominant they've been. The fact that Wilmington was near even at this game at halftime is a testament to how good this team is. And again, we said coming into the year, moving to 1A with Greenville, I think there was an understanding that if the Greyhounds were going to be as consistent as they were this year, that they had a legitimate chance, we thought, to win the state title, win it all. It just so happens that they ran into a buzzsaw in the second half, and they didn't play a great 24 minutes of football, but that happens to everyone. And so again, without having covered them much this season, and I think I saw them once or twice this year, you still have to give a huge amount of appreciation for how tough it is in 1A to be able to win, because I think the competition in 1A is so balanced in the fact that the good teams are really good because
Agreed.
You know, 1A schools, if you're in the state playoffs, you have a lot of studs. And I think there's more of a factor with the studs in 1A. You see it more. You see the discrepancy more than you do in, say, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, because all of your athletes in theory in those classifications are potential college D2, D3, maybe even D1 athletes. So big credit to Wilmington and what they did this year. Again, they're a team that's going to be back again. As long as they're in 1A, they're going to be a force. They're going to be one of the favorites. And I think a big credit to them for staying in it through the half. And then again, if not for the difficulties at the beginning of the third quarter, I think they had a shot to win the game too against an undefeated team. And
to piggyback off your point earlier, another great coach for Wilmington, Coach Brandon Fillion. He's done it for a lot of years, and he said after the game, we're very proud of the way they represented our school and our community. We have a young team, and we're excited to run it back next year and do it all again, which I believe he will and they will.
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot about Hickory and Wilmington next year, that's for sure.
Agree with that. So the last 2 teams in District 10 go down over the weekend. That sort of puts a nice little bow on the football season here in District 10. Couple of seconds left. I did want to hit this real quick. Otters went 2-1 on the week, all at home. Wins against Brampton 7-4 and Sault Ste. Marie 6-3 before falling to the Kitchener Rangers 4-0 on Saturday. The story, though, Isaac, is Callum Hughes, an 18-year-old forward and Boston University commit, following that NCAA decision to allow CHL players.
Thank gosh for that.
Oh my right? Gosh. 6'1", 170 pounds. Known for his speed, two-way ability, and high hockey IQ, he joins Captain Kerry Terrance as the second U.S.-born player on Erie's roster. Got his first goal at the club early in the third against the Greyhounds the other night. Another offensive piece to add for Coach Dan Butler to work with this year. He's a one-year rental for the Erie Otters.
And look, he's going to add to an offense that needs depth scoring. The top six has been scoring. Terrance has started to put more goals on the board. Malcolm Spence, Sam Alfano, Pano Femus, they continue to put points up as well. But I'll tell you this, if Callum Hughes can be as big of an impact as the Otters think he can be, they're going to be a really tough out in the OHL. I really think that Kitchener's about the only team they wouldn't want to play in the playoffs at this point.
It's going to be fun. That was the North Shore Rewound. When we get back, we'll cross the quad to the campus corner. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill.
Can I just say, Paul, really quickly, when I'm in person, those breaks are a lot shorter than when I'm at home.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I have a chance to check on my kid, make sure he's got breakfast, all that fun stuff. Like, I don't do that here. That there's no time here.
No, you exhale, you inhale, and then you hear the bumper music coming back in.
Which I love, by the way.
Fantastic, isn't it? Hey, welcome back to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Paul Adamczak, Rich Smith, Isaac Petcash, all in studio today. Coach Cleve Wright will be here in just a few minutes. Let's jump right into the campus corner. I love that graphic.
I think, you know what? I think we should have a local drum line in live to do that at some point.
I'm looking around the studio. I don't know where you're going to fit
maybe
them,
we
but
do
I'm
it. Maybe we do it at
favor.
Millennium Sound, like on a Thursday night or something.
We can hear the folks going by on State Street, so they could stand on the other side of the window. I'm just saying.
Amen to that.
That would be super cool. All right, we're going to work on that. Let's start the campus corner with it's all Gannon today. So This is the Gannon corner. Let's start with women's soccer.
I'll tell you what, if there's one person who's having a really great Monday, it's Paige Taylor. How about Gannon Women's Soccer in the second round of the NCAA tournament, taking down Kutztown 3-2. Paige Taylor a goal with 28 seconds to go in regulation to pace the Golden Knights past Kutztown, and that puts them into the third round of the NCAA tournament. 24 shots to 5. The Golden Knights outshot Kutztown in the game. They were up 2-1 at half, gave up a goal with under 10 minutes to go, and then won the game with under 30 seconds to go with that goal from Taylor. Hey, local product, General McLean grad, Brooklyn Respecki had a goal. She's got 14 now in the season. Jesse Watkins added one to put Gannon up 2-1. And now they take on the number 1 seed in the Atlantic Regional in Shepherd coming up on Sunday. This is a really darn good women's soccer team. They have been for a few years, Paul, and they've got a shot now to move on to the Elite Eight if they can win on Sunday.
Coach Cullen has his girls in position. It'll be a tough matchup against the number 1 seed in the country. Not having as great of a Monday, but definitely a good season and want to talk about it. The Gannon men's soccer team ended their season with a heartbreaking 3-2 overtime loss to the defending national champions Franklin Pierce in the NCAA tournament over the weekend. The Golden Knights led 2-0 early in the second half with goals from Rafa Hyde, his 11th of the season, and James Poole, who finishes his career with 24 goals. Franklin Pierce rallied, tying the match in the 77th minute before an own goal in overtime sealed Gannon's fate. Andre Morea scored 5 saves in this first half as Franklin Pierce outshot Gannon 20-8 and held an 8-2 edge in corner kicks. Gannon finished the season at 14-4-3, while Franklin Pierce will advance at 12-2-5.
I just tell you what, and again, it's a great season for the Golden Knights because of what they were able to do, and what is this tough conference to be able to get out of, especially given the fact that you have to play these grueling games late in the season with bad weather. Big credit to the Golden Knights. They go up 2-0. It's probably a game that they're going to want to have back. I think if you look at the way that game played out and just looking at some of the highlights, you go up 2-0, and then less than a minute and a half later, you give up a 2-1 goal. And it was a PK. So you get caught on defense, you give up that goal, and now all of a sudden the tide turns. I do believe when you look at this team, though, this is still a team that has a lot of depth to it. And in talks with the time at Billy Colton, who I think understands what it takes to build a program, you have to have players that can come in the next year after a great season and continue to have success. They're going to have that. Just a tough way for the season to come to an end. But what a year for the Golden Knights men's soccer team and for fall sports again, athletics. My gosh.
Yeah, seriously.
It's just been unbelievable.
And you talked about his ability to turn a roster over. They lost a lot of talent from last year's uber talented team. Coming into this year, you think, well, sort of the same thing as Gannon women's basketball, Gannon men's basketball. We talked about the women's soccer team. You lose players year over year, and the ability to adjust and bring up those depth players and feel like, it's not a retooling season, a rebuilding season. It's just, you just reload and go.
Yeah. And again, the men's soccer team will be back. No question about it. As long as they have Coach Colton at the helm, they'll be just fine. And the women move on, the men go home, but a lot more left to talk about too, because we got another Gannon athletic team.
I was going to say, before we even get to the basketball teams, you have an update on Gannon volleyball.
Yes. So they're going to be in the Atlantic Regional. They just couldn't get it done in the PSAC championship game over the weekend, falling to IUP 3-1. Close first set. They lose at 25-23, win the second set in convincing fashion. Then IUP went on a tangent. They may have played their 2 best sets of the entire season against Gannon, 25-14 in both sets. But if there's one thing that I know about this Golden Knight volleyball team, it doesn't matter what Coach Darling's seed is when they get to the Atlantic Regional. It's just get in, because the expectation is that they make the Elite Eight every single year. And we always joke, we say, all right, for Gannon women's volleyball, it's the only question is what seed are they going to be when they get to the Elite Eight? I still think they have a great chance to be able to be a top seed. I don't know if they're going to be the number 1 seed in the Atlantic Regional, but they'll be up there. They'll have a good chance to make it, I think, to the Atlantic Regional final. Then the question is, who are they going to play? But you look at this team, they're 23-7. They were 13-1 in conference. And I think when you look at the way and the depth that they have at this team, again, we talk about depth, I think they're going to be fine. I actually think if you were to ask Coach Darling, they're probably okay with losing this game. Not that you want to lose in the championship game, but it gives you a learning lesson, right? Of,
sure.
Okay, what can we do better? What can we improve upon when we get to the postseason in NCAAs? And they're going to be in the Atlantic region with a lot to play for. We'll see exactly where that plays out in terms of seeding. But they're another team that just keep an eye on them, because they're, they lose over the weekend, but they're going to be much better and much improved come, I think, tournament time.
I think that's a great point, because we see it across the sports world. A team that gets we'll say humbled toward the end of the season. It makes you not feel so infallible.
Sure.
It makes you not be so complacent. It really ratchets up the pressure and the intensity as you head into the postseason portion.
Yeah, and their first game is likely going to be on Thursday. Again, the sites and time still to be determined, but it'd be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday sort of a thing if they can get to the Atlantic Regional Championship. And then it would be back to the Elite Eight, as Coach Darling has done so many times in his coaching career.
It'll be certainly fun to watch. From volleyball, let's go to the hardwood. Gannon Men's Basketball. They secured a 105-93 victory over East Stroudsburg, extending their win streak now to 6 games. Golden Knights are 6-2 overall, now 2-0 in PSAC play. They capitalized on 27 Warrior turnovers in that game, scoring 40 points off those miscues. Ernest Shelton led with 23 points, while Justin DeBuck added 19 on 9 of 11 shooting. The Golden Knights are on break until the Gary Miller Classic, November 30th, sitting just outside the top 25 now. Isaac, 27 in the NABC poll, 26 in the D2 CSC poll. They dropped those first 2 games of the season. That kind of dropped them out, but they have rallied from there.
I'll tell you what, I talked to Coach Easton Bozzoli after the Saturday game and the Friday game because I called him. And he kind of joked, but it was also serious because he said, look, we're scoring a bunch of points. We're close to where our season average was last year in terms of points. We're top 15 in the country in pace of play, and I feel like we're playing slow. I would actually agree with him. I think when you look at this team, it's a team that's got more size. They have size compared to what they didn't have last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're much more sound, I think defensively, especially in the back half of the floor. They're better in the paint. Tasman Goodrick, who we haven't mentioned, he comes in this season for his first year with the Golden Knights. He's second on the team in points. Really tough to score against inside the paint. He's somebody to keep an eye on. Pace Prosper, the freshman, has been playing really well as well. He's 4th on the team in scoring. So they have, as we talked about, depth, but they also have defense and they have size. And that's something where even if you lose a little bit of speed from that full court trap game, I think it will serve them well later in the season in conference play, especially when you get to Western Division play.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of teams that are big, a lot of teams that are able to score inside in the paint. And I think those guys who we mentioned, the size of the Gannon team is going to serve them really, really well. But they're off to a good start. They had a tough 2 games to begin the year, including Nova Southeastern and Coach Crutchfield there.
Number 1 team in the country.
6 straight wins. I think being outside the top 25 is a good thing. There's not a lot of drop-off from what you've seen from Jordan to Easton, and I think that's going to be a good thing down the stretch of the season.
All right, we'll get to another Gannon team here in just a few minutes, but before that, let's get through our 2-minute draw. I have 16 names. Let's see if we can get through them. Mercyhurst football closed its 2024 season with a historic 21-20 win over St. Francis, securing their first Division I and NEC victory.
Cojones for Ryan Remedio. What a 2-point conversion.
Trailing 13-0 at halftime, the Lakers stormed back with quarterback Adam Urena throwing for 240 yards and 2 scores. Both to Cameron Barmore, who finished with 129 receiving yards. A gutsy hook and lateral 2-point conversion finished by Ryan Welch gave Mercyhurst the lead with 42 seconds to play. Edinburgh University senior standout Katie Zepp wrapped up her collegiate career at the NCAA National Championships in Sacramento on Saturday. Zepp ran the 6K race in a time of 22:42.3, finishing 155th overall. The Edinburgh women's basketball team improved to 2-0 in conference play with a 75-67 win over Westchester on Saturday. Morgan Gentile led the Scots with 23 points, shooting 7 of 11 from the field, while Ava Haddad added 14 points and 7 rebounds. Penn State Barron swimming team had a standout weekend at the Fredonia State Blue Devil Invite with 3 athletes setting multiple records. Anthony Tamino broke the program AMCC Open and Fredonia pool records in the 50 freestyle, winning with a time of 20.78 seconds. Cameron Waters set team AMCC Open and pool records in the 100 backstroke with a time of 56.63. And Tim Compton shattered team and pool records in the 100 butterfly and contributed to a record-setting 200 medley relay. Woo! All right, when we get back, we'll hop into the flagship feature with Coach Cleve Wright. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick All right, welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill, Paul Adamzak, Rich Smith, Isaac Petcash, and we are joined now by Coach Cleve Wright of the Gannon Women's Basketball Team. Gannon 9-0. They're ranked number 3 in the nation, according to D2CSC, number 4 in the WBCA coaches poll. Coach, team averaging 71 points per game. You're hitting better than 40% from the field, better than 30% from three-point land. You out-rebound opponents by 4.6 per game, and your assists are in the double figures at 14 per game. First, I wanted to talk about Kate Ratliff and Andrea Maybach, 2 of your top 3 scorers dealing with the injury bug. Either of the injuries serious, or are we talking about an extended period of time that they're out, or are these just sort of normal things that happen in the course of an athletic season?
Well, certainly they happen during the course of the season, and health is always important. If you're going to have a successful season, staying healthy is critical. Both of those, Kate and Andy, I think are. I think we'll see Kate before we see Andy, probably, most likely, because Andy just went down on Saturday,
right?
So I think both of them they're not season-ending injuries,
okay,
which is. I think that's what you're asking.
It's kind of the listen.
Injuries.
If it's let me down early, and then we can kind of build through the rest of the interview.
There you go. Thank you, Lord. They're not season ending, and obviously they're critical to us. But we, the great thing is we have depth, and we're young, but we still have depth. 10 freshmen and sophomores, 10 players who are in their first or second year. And we've had even in this early in the season have had a lot of people step up. The adversity that we've had to handle early, I'm just hoping that it's maturing us quickly.
Absolutely. And that depth is obviously a lot of what I wanted to talk about this morning. Mm-hmm. The approach to this season, obviously you lose arguably the best player in program history. Maybe from a number standpoint, there's a lot of things that go into the GOAT, right?
The one thing we can say for sure is she's the most decorated.
Most decorated.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to
put
put
decorated. It. As a matter of fact, and I don't know if you're even aware of this, but she has been getting awards, and she still continued to get awards even going into this year, and is in the top 9 for the NCAA Woman of the Year, and that is all divisions.
And that's one of 3 players in Division II. She won
one of only 3. Yeah, one of only 3 players in Division II. They have their banquet in January. It's actually when we're opening the Highmark on January 15th. We play, or I would love to go.
Oh my
gosh! It's at the NCAA convention, and she's been invited down to a banquet. We'll have a couple. I think our provost Sarah Ewing and one of our athletic administrators Megan Morphy will be down there for her. I would love to be there for her. But
Certainly.
We got a game, and it's a little, it's pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a big day.
So it sets up the question. The expectations coming off of that are still high, even though you lose one of the 10 best, we'll say Division I or Division NCAA athletes in the country. What facilitates that? Obviously, the national basketball community believes in your program. How do you approach those expectations, knowing that you have to do it all again without a player like Perosco?
That's the wonderful thing about coaching at Gannon. You're always going to be expected to be good. I mean, everybody, not just the community, but fortunately, in the nation, we've been fortunate to have people take notice of our program, and so I think our players want to live up to that. And when going into the year, a lot of our players were getting the question, what are you going to do? Sam's gone. Sam Perosco's gone. What are you going to do? And I loved the way our team approached it because as they talked about their mission statement, they talked about the things they wanted to accomplish this year. The phrase "never satisfied" came up because we had a great year last year, but last year was last year, and so now it's time for this team, and every team's different. Right. You lose people and add people. So even though you have some of the same people, it literally is a different dynamic. You can still have your same core values. You can still have all of those things that are very similar, that look very similar, but there's different personalities, different people, different skill sets, different things that come in to make it to play. And so we have some really good post players. They were all young because we lost, not only did we lose Sam Perosco, but we lost our other starting post player, Mikkel Nation. And so that's probably been one of our things early that we've been trying to try to get some consistency at, and unfortunately I think Andy was headed in the right direction and now has this little bit of a setback. And so, but I know she's going to come at it. And then we have these other young ones that are trying to fill in. And I think they're doing a great job so far. We have so much growth left to go.
It's funny because you and I talk about whether it's post-game interviews or interviews, Cleve, about your depth. And I know every year you try to get a laundry list of players, young players involved and acclimated early on. But you talk about some of the names that we've seen this year, whether it's Lauren Kingsley in reserve for Andy, whether it's Jordan Popick, Olivia Pepple, who you've had on the floor for times. Taylor Etheridge had a big game on Friday in your win against Kutztown. I know all of them understand the expectation coming in, but what is the key to getting those players acclimated to your system so early in the season? And is it a specific point for you to intentionally play them early in the year to make sure that they're good to go come Western Division time?
Well, I think when you have young players, you're trying to explore to see who's ready to step up.
Sure.
And so I think that's really what it amounts to. And I think in our practice, we are a team that practices competitively every day. Like if you lose a drill, you're going to run, or you're going to do push-ups, or you're going to do something. There's going to be some kind of consequence there, not a punishment. There's a consequence for your actions. If you don't do something well, there's a consequence. If you do something well, there's a reward. And so that's life. And so we want to put that into our practice every day. And I do think that grows people. And so I do think there is, to your point, intention on getting people, trying to play early, especially early on, 10, 11, 12 people if we can in certain situations to see how they can play. And now this year, it's probably more because we've had some people go down, that we've had to step into that. And so I think it's been good. I've seen some really good things. I've seen some major things we've got to work on. And I love my team. I love all of my players, clearly, or they wouldn't be there.
Right.
So, and I just see so much potential in them.
And only 9 games in, too. That's the thing. We haven't even gotten to Western Division play. We were talking off the air about some of the games that Gannon's going to have down the road. But you look at the stats and you just look, I didn't even mention Olivia Cernudo, who comes back after an injury early in the season. She's been a big part in the last 2 games of the weekend. And Paul, I think when you watch this Gannon team, as I've been able to call a few games, the one thing you see, it's almost similar. You don't run your 5 and then 5 like the men's team does, but you see the depth. And that's such a big part to this team and the consistency that they've had.
Yeah, I think, we played Glenville State early on, our first home game. And they run like the system like the men do with their 5 in, 5 out. And we probably subbed a little bit. Well, we definitely subbed a little bit more than we normally do, but it's never 5 in, 5 out. The one thing I really like is, I think our players do a good job of attacking their conditioning. Our preseason is tough. They take a lot of pride in that. And so they feel like, and I felt like even against Glenville a little bit, at the end, we were running harder than they were, and they were subbing in and out. So that just gives our kids more confidence when they see that, because they know that, and Glenville's going to be there in the end. Don't get me wrong. We may end up playing them again. Who knows? But to have our kids saying at the end, hey, we were still running faster than they were. So
awesome. I love that. You talked about necessary growth between now and the end of the season. What areas do you see as critical for improvement as you prepare for the heart of that PSAC schedule?
Yeah, I think consistency. I think we need consistency not only in the post, but just as a team. I mean, one thing you didn't mention. One thing I'm really
only one thing I didn't mention. That's good. I'm doing well this morning.
Only one thing I've caught. Isaac probably caught more.
No.
The one thing I am really pleased with, and I hope I can continue to be pleased with, because I think it's going to play a critical role, is that our turnovers are low. And to have a young team and to have turnovers low, possessions are so important. And so, our team really has a goal of, 13 or less turnovers, and that's less than last year. Last year it was 14. They wanted to go 13. So I think they really do challenge themselves to take care of the ball and to get a shot. And when you have some of the shooters that we have and the people that we have that can put the ball in the basket, that just means more possession. So I think that is headed in the right direction. I think if we can keep going that way, now we're getting ready to go on the road on Wednesday and on the road on Sunday, and that'll be even more critical. So.
Yeah, before you carve any turkey, you have another game coming up Wednesday night.
Yes.
At, Ohio Dominion. That's it. Yeah.
Ohio Dominican in Columbus. Yeah. They're in the GMAC over there with Ashland and Ashland and Walsh and some of those, a lot of Ohio teams.
They play some high level competition as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it'll be good. It's close to Bree Claxton's home, close to Kate Ratliff, close to Bella Deer, who's in Kentucky. So we'll have some family. Hopefully we'll have a good crowd there.
That's good.
And we've already talked to our team. It can be a trap game if your kids aren't ready. And so we've already talked about that. You want to keep our kids focused, and Thanksgiving doesn't start till Thursday.
It's
right, guys?
Have you been? Are you the cook in the house, Cleve?
I
imagine you whip up some pretty good dishes, right?
Isaac, you do not know me. But
I'm trying to help you.
But I'm
here.
glad I look like that.
I'm trying to help you here.
Well, thank you so much. No, I think for years I didn't cook a thing. I mean, my wife cooked everything, and then probably about 5 to 6, maybe 7, I started grilling, and I enjoy grilling.
Okay.
But no, my wife will do all of the turkey stuff, and I'll wash all the dishes. And
that's a fair.
You rarely get thanked for washing the dishes. Your wife, well, my wife thanks me, that's for sure. But everybody's thanking her for the food, and I'm thanking her for the food because she's an unbelievable cook.
I always say too, the cleaning's almost I don't want to say it's as hard, but I mean, those Thanksgiving dishes, man, when you combine all the stuff on that plate, it's hard to get stuff off. Even if you have a dishwasher, you run it on the heavy setting, man. That ain't easy.
Break out the sandblaster.
Right. Whatever you got to do. Hey, by the way, lastly, I want to ask you too, because we talk about the team as a whole, but you talked about Bree Claxton and her homecoming. I think she has taken on that leadership role, right? She was the complement to Sam from last year. Mm-hmm. How is she taking on that leadership role this year, team leading points now, and being able to know that we have a lot of people coming back, but somebody has to take that mantle, right?
Yeah, I think she's done a great job because, it really, yes, she was a compliment to Sam last year. As far as on the floor and things like that. What's happened this year is I think she's really trying to lead more off the floor as well as on the floor. But then she has Carissa Dunham, who's in her second year with us, but a third-year college player who loves the team. So, Carissa and Bree do a great job with that. And then we have some really strong, what I call gap fillers, people who have a lot of influence, and they're doing a great job of leading too. But we still need growth in that area. We still need growth in that area, and so I'll know we're having growth in that area when we need to be more consistent, and not just in our play on the floor, but our energy and our the way we practice.
Coach, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us in person this morning. Are you able to stick around for the fourth block?
I would love to.
All right. When we get back, everyone's favorite segment, Overreaction Monday, coming up next. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by All right, welcome back to Flagship City Sports Talk. Paul Adamczak filling in for Nick Artman today. This is where we typically do the Rust Belt rundown, but Pittsburgh and Cleveland played on Thursday. Buffalo was off this week. So, Isaac, I'll hand it over to you. You have the reins as we turn the fourth block of our show into a full Overreaction Monday.
Can't wait. And it's great to have Cleveland studio for this too, because I know that there's going to be a lot of great dissection for the two of you. I'm not going to get one of these topics as a proper reaction. I'm just going to say that now. Rules of the game are as follows. I put a topic out for the NFL that seems outlandish, and it's the panel's job to tell me whether it's an overreaction or whether it's a proper reaction. It's a pretty simple game, but a lot of fun topics. So, yesterday, Bills, Steelers, Browns all didn't play. Steelers, Browns, of course, on Thursday. We'll get to them in a second. Bills had a bye. They get the Niners in this week. I know. But, I'm watching a game I watched yesterday was the Chiefs-Panthers, and I'm watching Bryce Young carve up the KC defense, and I'm watching Mahomes struggle to win the football game. And I'm like, okay, the Bills crush him last week. The Chiefs just aren't playing really well now. The Bills are the clear favorites to win the AFC.
I will say not an overreaction because of the evidence that we've been given. I think Kansas City has a chance because they're playing all close games. Each and every week, it's a 3-point game. Right. The Bills were the only team that actually blew them out a little bit. But the Chiefs are going to be good in close games. Once you get used to winning close games, you tend to be better in close games. So that bodes well for Kansas City in the playoffs. But right now, due to the lack of evidence to the contrary, the Bills are the best team in the AFC.
But they got to prove it.
You're not wrong.
They haven't proven it. Yesterday, I was watching that game, and I'm like, as soon as the Panthers scored, I'm like, it's too much time. It's too much. All he's got to do is get to a field goal. Are you kidding me? And you just every time you watch Mahomes, he's such a gamer.
It's like an inevitability, right? It was like with Brady. Any time left on the clock, whether it's a 6-point game or a 4-point game, you just know. And for Buffalo, they got to prove it in the playoffs. But I just think, man, even if it's not an Orchard Park AFC Championship game, they're just rolling. They're going to crush San Francisco by 20 this week. It's just it's rough to see if you're not a Bills fan what they're doing because they're scary.
Hey, I don't know if you can call Mahomes. I don't know if you can call Mahomes or Brady. He does it in a different way.
Yeah, they're
he played horrible. They were playing so bad.
Oh, I know. It was insane. But the
way playing bad was just Carolina playing out of their minds.
I just think
they were playing out of their minds.
The way they're able to win though is similar. Even down at the end, you just trust them to win big games. All right, next topic. Yep. Paul Adamczak, put up your sweatshirt to this camera for the crowd. He's a resident Dolphins fan in here, right? And all season long, we've been talking about how the Bills are the class of the AFC East. I agree. The Bills are winning the division, no question.
Yep.
But the AFC East is getting 2 playoff teams in.
Oh, not an overreaction at all.
Miami's getting in there.
We have 3 tough games to play left. We have the Texans, we have the 49ers, and we have the Packers on Thanksgiving. The Dolphins essentially need to win 1 out of those 3 to be a 10-win team, and I think 10 wins gets you into the playoffs. I think we win 2 out of those 3, with the exception being this Thursday on Turkey Day, unfortunately. But I think the Dolphins end the season, between now and the end of the season, to lose 1 more game this week, and we make the playoffs.
I mean, they're right behind Denver. Denver 7-5, Miami 5-6, so they're like a game and a half, 2 games back. I don't know. Cleve. Tua's back. It seems like that offense is
you've seen the commercial. If Dan Marino's not coming back, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Nobody is more important to their team than Tua Tagovailoa is to the Miami Dolphins.
There you go.
They were... McDaniel was stubborn with his play calling. I felt when we had that cavalcade of losers playing quarterback first for about 5 weeks there, the entire thing is based around Tua. He's the only guy that can do it. He's incredible at what he does. He's really, really tough to stop when he's moving, and he has been moving and grooving for 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So
the hard thing is it's one person. When you're everything depends on one person, man.
And he's an injury liability. So as long as he's there, they've got a shot.
I was going to say, you look at the rest of their schedule. Paul talked about it. They got the Packers coming up this Thursday, then the Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, Jets. So I don't know. I always said there wasn't going to be a 9-win team to make the playoffs in the AFC. Now I'm not sure, because you look at the rest of the standings in Denver. Are they really that good as a 7-win team? How about the fact that the Ravens are not the 5 seed in the AFC right now? That's the Chargers who are the 5 seed in the AFC. And those 2 teams play tonight. And it brings me over to my next overreaction topic. I'm a Steeler fan. Cleve's a Steeler fan. We love our team. We didn't like what we saw on Thursday. I didn't like what I saw from Russell Wilson. I didn't like what I saw from the defense in the snow. They're going to be first whether the Ravens win tonight or not, but the Steelers just aren't winning the AFC North. I just don't. If you can't beat Cleveland in that sort of
Wait a minute. No.
I'll give you this one. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Are you kidding me?
I believe that's
snow
overreaction.
affected that game so much. In a snow game, the offense has the advantage because they know what they're going to do.
Well,
the defense has to react.
They should be able to run the ball. I mean, look.
Well,
like,
I agree with that.
If you're the front seven, you should know Nick Chubb's getting the football, and Nick Chubb hadn't been great in his first few games back anyway. I don't know. I'm sorry. You give up 24 to a Cleveland team that hadn't done anything offensively all year, minus maybe Jameis against the Saints. I just don't see it.
Did you just say that Cleveland's winning on Thursday was an act of God?
I think it's exactly what I was saying. I mean, I thought we were going to get that snow the next day.
All know
the snow disappeared. It was only there for that game.
Yes.
We all know that it takes an act of God for Cleveland to win, but this time he came through.
But then I look at Russ and I'm like, okay, he made a couple decent throws down the field, but he gets stale in the pocket. He can't move that much. I know, Paul, you've been high on him, but I just look at him and I'm like, he has so many limitations. And even though Justin may not be as accurate with the football, he's a guy who can come in there and make plays with his legs. He can sling the ball further down the field. I just worry with Russ, there's a ceiling, and I'm worried they've hit that ceiling.
What about the offensive line? Could have done a little bit better on Thursday.
The O-line's been bad.
To give him more time.
I don't disagree with your ceiling talk with Russell Wilson, but I think the Steelers, they're stylistically different than what you see nowadays. They are not a spread it out and throw the ball around 50 times a game. They are a ground and pound, control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, run the ball, stop the run, hold the other team to under 20 points, and give yourself a chance to win every single week. Yep. The Browns scored 23, 24 points.
24, yep.
They may not score another
they may not.
2 weeks.
They've been given 2 acts of God in 2 of the 4 Jameis Winston starts. That's kind of the way she goes, boys. Way she goes.
Well, speaking of acts of God, let's go to the other side of that game. Kevin Stefanski saved his job on Thursday night and bought himself another year as head coach of the Browns.
Ooh.
I've been on the other side of this. I'm going to say not an overreaction only because I didn't think Stefanski was going to lose his job anyway.
Yeah,
2-time coach of the year. We said earlier this year on this show that they brought in Ken Dorsey. Should anything go wrong, Ken Dorsey was the sacrificial lamb. But I think from an ownership standpoint, I think it's pretty clear to everyone now that Deshaun Watson was forced on us as much as he was forced on Coach Stefanski, because this team is completely different ever since Jameis Winston took over the reins as starter there in Cleveland. I don't think you can blame the Deshaun Watson fiasco that was the first 8 or 9 weeks of the season on Stefanski, because he did everything he could. Deshaun was just out of his hands.
Can I just tell you, from a coach's perspective, you could tell Deshaun Watson was not connected to the team at all. Jameis Winston obviously is connected. Yes. And you see that team playing better because their leader, the quarterback, has to be a leader. It's like a point guard, has to be a leader, has to have that. And he is connected with his team. And Deshaun never was. I mean, every game I watched, it was like
Jerry Jeudy's a different person. Cedric Tillman's a different person.
Yes,
and it's just a shame the fact that it took this long for management or ownership to say, all right, at some point we got to put in Jameis, and you can make the argument, if not for the Watson injury, he would still be playing. I just think this team is much better with him at quarterback, not because of the talent level, but simply because, as Cleve said, the leadership's such a big component. You get Nick Chubb back. This team has a top 10 roster in football. It's just the biggest position has been the biggest detriment to Cleveland. And I think Kevin Stefanski, though I didn't think he should be fired, I think he was going to be the scapegoat at some point. I think he saved his job, although I don't think he wins in Pittsburgh in 2 weeks. That's it for me. I hope that was spicy enough. It was hard with all 3 teams not playing on Sunday, but we're going to have a good one next week, too.
I think it was probably more cinnamon spice, right?
Cinnamon, apple spice, pumpkin spice.
Apple spice. Thank you, pumpkin spice. I agree.
Thanksgiving-themed overreaction.
There we go. That's right.
Perfect.
I love we're done.
Coach, thank you so much for coming in. We want to hear from you. Send us your fan questions to flagshipcitysportstalk@gmail.com or on Twitter @FCSportsPalk. Sports Talk. Erie, thank you for joining us today. My name is Paul Adamzak, and I'm setting off for Isaac Petcash and Rich Smith. That'll do it for today. Check out Gin City Sports Podcast Network throughout the week. Have a great Thanksgiving.